Hello there, my beautiful pumpkins, and welcome back to the pumpkin patch. If you are new here, hello, my name is Chloe Taylor, and on this channel, I believe that we have one of the most cozy, autumnal, vibey corners of the internet. So if you like the way that I read, you like my style, please make sure that you hit that subscribe button and become a member of the pumpkin patch. We have a really good time over here, and the month of June, we are doing 3 uploads a week, so there's going to be a lot more where this came from. So today's video, originally I was going to focus on the element of self-care, and that is still very much going to be a predominant part of the reading. But as I sat in meditation with this reading, Spirit really just wants to pour out to you. So basically, this is just going to be everything you need to hear from Spirit right now, but there is going to be an element of gentle self-care and nurturing yourself back into being. I really wanted the energy of this reading to be gentle and soft and loving and helping you not only with advice from your spirit guides, but also with practical advice, grounded advice. And if you're just needing a place to sit, relax, and create a cozy corner for yourself right now, I hope that the words that flow through me will really embody that for you. So that is the main angle of this reading. That is the energy that we're sitting in, and we're just going to go ahead and get right into it. So pile number 1, you have the self-worth card. It says self-love, self-worth with this beautiful little cake. Pile number 2, you have the card of change with this figure and her arms stretched out in a little heart. And pile number 3, you have the rebel card. So you can choose multiples of these. You can listen to all 3 and make your decision after the fact. You can also look down below for the timestamps and see if any of your lucky numbers are present. That's often how I choose readings for myself when I look at other people's pick a cards. That's just like a really big defining factor for me, but always go with what your intuition is telling you. And if that means that there's, you want pile 1 and 3 or 2 and 3 or 1 and 3, don't be afraid to choose more than one. Maybe it's all 3. Maybe every single pile has a direct message for you. Always go with what your intuition is telling you. I'm going to go ahead and turn up the meditation music and give you some time to make a decision before we get into it, starting with pile number 1. All right, so pile number 1, we are starting off with that self-love card. It says self-worth, and the backs of these cards have things, so I wanted to hold them up and show them to you. We'll get to the whole laid out reading as well in just a moment, but the first card says, why settle for crumbs when you deserve a whole meal? Baby, you are the whole damn meal, just like Lizzo says, okay? And then we have the card of self, and this one says, if beating yourself up worked, you'd be thin, rich, and happy. Try loving yourself instead. And I do want to say, when it comes to this card being thin, rich, and happy, I do just want to remind those of you, I don't always agree that being thin is what everybody should always be about. I wish they hadn't even put that into this card, because I think it's a little bit of an outdated way of looking at things. It doesn't really elicit a lot of body positivity. So just know that on this channel, we don't necessarily stand for that being thin is the greatest thing. But I do think that when looking at this card objectively, it's really more about not beating yourself up for not being what society thinks a body should look like, or that being rich and happy, it's not about beating yourself up to get those things if you think that that is ultimately how you're going to get there and what it's going to mean when you get there. Try loving yourself instead of going after what the societal norm or the status quo would say. So there's the card of self. And I'm bringing that up because this card came out in a previous reading, and I did see there were a couple of comments that were really disheartened that the message of thin showed up there. So I just wanted to remind those of you that struggle with maybe body image things or any of those things, that isn't really the peak of happiness. And I think that's really what that card is trying to say, is those things are not necessarily the peak of happiness. And we also don't need to beat ourselves up to get there. Then we have the card of optimism, which says, if you're going to make up stories in your head about people and circumstances, please make them love stories with happy endings. So optimism, love it. Then we have the card of love, and it says, love people, love them with all of your heart. Just be sure to love yourself first. So you're getting a lot about self-love in your reading. Then we have change course with all these keys, and it says, a closed door is an invitation from life to move in an even better direction. It's time to change course. So let me go ahead and straighten these ones up a little bit for you. But I find this really interesting because I think what Spirit, ultimately the message that is coming up for you, is there is a lot about challenging the status quo, but there's also a lot here about loving yourself. And as you love yourself, you're going to see that reflected back at you as well, which I think that's honestly one of our greatest limiters, right? Is if we are all one and we are all each other pushed out, which is a really hard concept to convey. But if every person is us pushed out in some way and we are constantly reflecting ourselves back to ourselves through other people, if we're not loving ourselves, we're not going to see a lot of love depicted outwards. So it all has to start with our own self-worth and self-love. So I think the message that Spirit is trying, literally, you got self-worth, self-love, self and love, and then optimism. So honestly, this message, I feel like for a very cynical person, this might just not be the right reading for you. I'm hearing it from Spirit literally as I'm talking about this, that there are going to be some people that chose this pile that see life a lot more cynically, and that's okay. I think cynicism can serve us in a really valuable way, but just know if that is where you're coming from for this reading, this might just not be the pile for you. I'm just going to point it out for the few of you that are here that are very cynical and are not ready to be more open to optimism. This is not your pile and you need to choose again. Those of you that don't feel that way and you're like, no, I really do need to hear it about self-love, self-worth, and optimism, stick around. So I don't think I've ever gotten a message like that before. In my years of reading, I've never heard Spirit be like, you need to tell the people that are naysaying this already that they just need to pick again. Because I can feel it when I channel, I can feel the energy that's going to come into this reading before it happens. And that's some of what I'm getting. But if you're willing to have a little bit more of an open mind, then stick around for this one. But with self-worth, self-love, obviously all those things I just said, but with optimism, this is what I want to get to. Now, we know that toxic positivity exists, right? We know that sometimes people will try to spiritual bypass or just be like, oh, you feel anxious, just feel positively about that. No, that's not what I want to get to here when we are talking about Spirit telling you to be a little bit more on the optimistic side. I'm not sighing at y'all. I'm sighing because Spirit is asking me to share things that are a little bit more personal to me, and this makes me feel very vulnerable, but I think it's important to talk about it, and it's the message that's coming through. So Spirit wants me to remind you with this optimism card. This is on that same thread of magical thinking. And recently there was a video I put out where many of you were like, please do a video on magical thinking. And I will make that video, I promise. Like, it might not be until next month, but I will make that video for you. There were so many of you that wanted to hear it. But when it comes to your own self-worth and self-love, there is a lot out there right now that will tell you it's going to take months and years to recover. And this is not an incorrect statement. For some people, it does take that much. And I want to remind those of you with what we're going to be talking about right now, I am not a mental health professional. I'm not a licensed therapist. Please always seek professional help for those things. Don't use my readings in that way. It's not intended to be a replacement for therapeutic practice. However, I am somebody that's really well versed in psychology. I studied it for school for a little while and was making moves to possibly become a therapist at one point in my life. So I'm very I know a lot and I study a lot, but I'm not a therapist. I'm not licensed to give therapy. So just keep that in mind with my readings always. But the concept of magical thinking or optimism, they kind of go hand in hand. Magical thinking is, to me, sometimes I always call it like putting a thing, like having a thing, right? Like it's like putting a positive spin on something in your life that happened that maybe was not very positive. And it, like, for example, and I'm going to open up more about this in the future. So, or if you listen to my podcast, you might already be aware, but I went through a mental health crisis from June of last year, and I wasn't in crisis probably from like October, November forward, but I was still recovering. For like a 4 or 5 month period, though, I was in crisis. And my upload schedule, a lot of you saw that it wasn't really as like consistent. There was a lot more there was just less of me to go around because I needed to be with me. But something that I lost, and I'm hearing that a lot of you have also lost this, and this is why I'm sharing with you. This isn't about me taking center stage and needing to make this reading about myself. I'm sharing this with you because it's something that I am being pushed by a spirit to talk about right now. And I know that some of you out there need to hear what I'm about to say. So I was dealing with a lot of existentialism in particular. I'd never dealt with existentialism before this time period. Even losing my own form of spirituality in my early 20s, late teens, I never dealt with existentialism. I was always highly spiritual and I never felt like I'd lost the meaning to my own life. And going through this experience over those several months where it was really bad, that was something I had lost touch with. I had lost the ability. I'm sorry, I'm starting to cry about it. It's because I can feel how you feel. And it hurts. When you lose that ability to have magical thinking, it can ruin your entire life, especially if you are somebody that's highly optimistic normally, and then you look at the state of the world and it just guts you on the inside. How anybody can treat anybody a certain way. And the thing is, the world at that time period never stopped being magical for me. Even though I couldn't see it, nature was still blooming. There were still beautiful cloud shapes in the sky. There were still cool reflections on water. There were still mirages in the desert. There were still talk of aliens. There was still magic still existed everywhere. I just couldn't see it. And slowly that had to come back into my life, but it wasn't just because I flipped some kind of switch. I had to make myself look for it in order to start to feel better about myself. I had to start, every time I had a thought in my head that was very destructive or not open to healing or not open to transforming what I was going through, I would have to sit there and challenge that thought and basically poke holes in why these statements that my brain was coming up with were not true. And I had to start to make myself look for the magic in the mundane. And that was not easy. It was very hard. For months, it was hard to watch myself feel like I was just a shell of the person I was before. And I know that some of you have felt this and it feels like the world is on fire and you don't know what to do with any of it. And Spirit is ultimately saying that you need to let yourself challenge the thought. Challenge what, like, thoughts really are just thoughts. They don't make up who you are. You are so much more than what your brain can come up with. Sometimes the thoughts that roll through your head are bullshit. Like they don't even have anything to do with you. And the more you attach narratives to those thoughts and decide that they're your reality, the more and more you pull that reality in. But the more you notice magic, the more you take a break, the more you take a deep breath, the more you look at nature, the more you go out to the water, the more you look at the skyline in the desert, the more you watch the falling snow or the changing of leaves. Or I know I'm giving you a lot of nature perspective, but something that comes out of this optimism that I'm talking about, this magical thinking, is you start to realize that all of the big things that society decided you needed to look for, career, status, money, power, those things don't actually matter. And it is the little things that matter. The way that rain falls into a puddle matters more. I know that probably sounds crazy if you've never achieved a really, really big goal in your life for yourself. And I'm not saying that goals are a bad thing to have at all. I think that our life is driven by that and they can be really beautiful things. But if they're rooted in the wrong things and we lose our sense of self by pushing ourselves so hard, we lose our sense of self-worth, we lose our self-love. It's the magic and the optimism that can bring you back. And I feel like what this card is really asking of you is to challenge the thoughts that make you feel less like loving yourself and others. Challenge the thoughts that take you farther away from yourself. Challenge the thoughts that make you feel like you're not worthy of living the life that you desire. When you start to look for magic in everyday life and in the mundane, that's where it changes. And it's not going to be because this big event comes in and your life changes for the better. Now, sometimes obviously events can change us and they often do, but it's the little steps that add up to the big steps. And my point to having a thing is I know that there's a really powerful argument for not everybody needs to have a thing. You don't need to wrap every experience you had in your life in a pretty bow and make it beautiful and look for the metaphors. Sometimes a shitty thing just happens and you just need to let it be a shitty thing. But in my experience, that leaves me wanting. It leaves me feeling raw on the inside. And maybe I'm just not for everybody and this story isn't resonating with you at all. Like I said, this might just not be your pile. But my point is that sometimes you need to wrap your life up in metaphor and pretty packages and pretty bows for it to make sense to you. And it's okay to do that. You have permission to do that. It's your life. That doesn't mean you have to spiritual bypass. It doesn't mean you don't have to get in there and understand why things are the way that they are. In fact, I think it can often lead to doing more of that internal work. But I think there's this idea that anytime you meet something with optimism or what is it trying to teach me energy, that it's a bad thing. And all I can tell you is that in my experience, it was that kind of thinking that saved my life. And I have a huge stake in this reading in particular because I'm feeling like a lot of you that hit this pile, I feel that energy of you're lost, you're scared, and you're allowed to create a life even when all of that fear is swirling around you. You're allowed to create your own peace, even if it feels like a tornado is around you and you are the eye of the storm. You're allowed to create peace. And for some of you, it is through optimism that that peace is going to come in. Granted, like I said, it's not going to be everybody's path, and I respect that. I'm not going to say sorry for getting emotional. It's a really emotional reading, but and I say that more for myself than for anybody else. I think we need to destigmatize emotions being a bad thing or something we should apologize for. Then with change course, I think this is literally about changing and unlocking new areas of your mind by changing the way that you speak about yourself, the way that you speak to yourself, and what your inner dialogue sounds like. It's not going to be easy at first. Changing your inner thought process when your mind has run on autopilot and just said things, it's not always the easiest process. It's difficult. It's hard because you're used to thinking these same thoughts over and over and over, and interrupting them takes effort. But eventually, as you interrupt them, they will become the thoughts that are always running through your head. Okay, we're going to keep moving on because I feel like your reading is going to be really long. We have everyone is on their own journey. How can you focus more on your own path? So this is also about shutting down the noise. And again, this doesn't mean that we have to be complacent with how things are. It doesn't mean you don't educate yourself. It doesn't mean that you stay out of the fight. It just means that sometimes you, in order to show up as the best warrior that you can for the world or for your family or your community or people that you love, you sometimes have to shut it down to recoup your own energy so that you can use it in a way that is helpful. And everyone really is on their own journey. How can you start to focus more on you and yours and stop looking towards what everyone expects of you? Then we have, there is strength in doing nothing. Wait, what have you been forcing and how can you let go of the outcome? So is there something in your life that you've been forcing, that you've wanted to happen really, really bad? And so much so that you're obsessed with this outcome. Maybe it's something about what I mentioned, or it's something to do with maybe you're a creator and you're trying to do it like everybody else when you were never supposed to do it like everybody else. You were supposed to do, like, literally, I feel like this is something that a lot of us forget, creative types. We forget that it is our creativity that is unique, and the uniqueness is what makes people like us. And yet we'll look to everybody else and what they're doing to garner information about what we should be doing. And frankly, that's not why you're here. You're here to follow the things that light you up. And if that's a myriad of things, that's okay. And if anything, doing one singular thing is going to benefit you so much less. Stop trying to pigeonhole yourself into one thing. You didn't come here to do one thing. And also, it's okay to do nothing for a while. Maybe you're a little creatively burnt out. Deep inward journey. You'll be rewarded for the work. How can you alchemize your fear? So, y'all, how can you alchemize your fear? With alchemizing your fear, this is very much tied to the energy of asking yourself what you're the most afraid of. And then face it. Face that fear. That to me is one of obviously when you're ready, you would never want to do that and then make yourself totally unhinged or crawl out of your own skin. You know, I'm obviously telling you to do these things very safely, but in my experience of like even healing on my own journey or transmuting energy or turning fear into energy or power, you have to face that fear head on. And like for me, I'll give you an example. I was struggling in an existential crisis and having a ton of panic attacks. And it wasn't until I stopped and said to my body, you want to panic? Go ahead. I give you permission to panic. I give you permission to shake uncontrollably, have these racing thoughts, racing heartbeat, feel lightheaded. I give you permission. And I'm going to sit here and be with you, be with myself while this happens. And then the panic never came. And then it happened again. And I said the same thing. And then the panic never came. I gave myself permission to panic instead of panicking about panicking. And like, I don't even know how to even fully explain that experience, but it was like, I would feel like the tingling sensation that sometimes you get with panicking with fear. And granted, I'm talking about something very specific. You maybe have never struggled with a panic attack, and that's awesome. And if you do, maybe yours were very different from mine, and the solution is going to be different. But all I can do is share my experience because, again, Spirit keeps telling me to talk about it. But with this deep inward journey, you'll be rewarded for the work. How can you alchemize your fear? Try giving your fear permission. Now, like I said, obviously we want to do this in a safe way. There are going to be some circumstances where that does not apply. But to alchemize your fear, sometimes you have to just allow it and see what happens. And I feel like that's ultimately how I was able to get over having panic attacks, was I had to start allowing them instead of resisting them. And it was terrifying. It's terrifying. If you've ever felt that experience, any of y'all have ever had one of those or several of those, or maybe you deal with panic disorder, it's terrifying. But that was how I was able to alchemize it, was to gently show up for myself and say, okay, do your worst, let's go. And now I don't really deal with that anymore. I was able to make it subside by gently loving it into submission. And you're right now on a very deep inward focused journey of self-love. And again, that might not be your exact experience. Maybe you deal with something totally different, but it still applies that whatever you are most afraid of, how can you get closer to it? Maybe you fear death. And I think that's totally normal, by the way. I think a lot of us fear death, but maybe it's a good time to volunteer in like a hospice center. Maybe it's time to, oh my gosh, play the game Spiritfarer if you have a PC or Switch or a PS4. That game is incredible. It changed my life. It gets you closer to the different stories behind death and what that looks like and the grieving in the morning, all while playing this really adorable game. Spiritfarer is a great one. But basically, whatever you're going through right now, there is a fear that is motivating it. And how can you turn to face the fear in a safe way? Then we have for you the card of play, reclaim, and transmute. Oh my gosh, you got transmute again. So this is also about reclaiming yourself, reclaiming your own energy, reclaiming your personal power, reclaiming what you feel like has been lost to you, playing, getting very clear on what it means to play, because there is a huge difference between resting and playing. They are two very different things. I know a lot of people categorize them into one, but when you are resting, you are not playing. And when you are playing, you are most certainly not resting. And Spirit is asking you, how can you reclaim the energy of play? How can you bring back something into your life that is just playing for the sake of playing, not trying to make it perfect, not trying to design something for other people to see, not trying to monetize it? What is something that you can just let yourself do for fun? Maybe it's something you do in secret that you don't show to anybody else. You need to give that energy to yourself because it's going to help you transmute your inner world. Something, again, that I always like to recommend. I told you today's video was going to be practical advice. I just felt it. The practicality was coming. But with transmute, maybe you need to paint your feelings. Maybe you need to draw them. Maybe you need to write them. What do they look like? Give them a personality and see what happens. Try it. And see if you can meet that part of yourself in a different way. Okay, sorry y'all. I had to take a little bit of a breather during this reading because the energy was so highly connected to me that I had to go and like do a little bit of grounding exercise myself. I took a day to come back to this. So, I really wanted you to have like the full channeled message though. So I wanted to like give it time and space. So I know it's going to seem like nothing for you because it's literally edited and spliced together perfectly, but I'm actually coming back to this reading a day later. And I even like went back and re-listened to the first half of this reading. And I genuinely was about to, like, I was getting really in my head as a person about like, maybe nobody is going to like resonate with this. And Spirit basically slapped me upside the head and was like, Kloee, it's not about you. Like, literally, you're here because you're supposed to be here to channel these messages. And that was how we wanted, like, yeah. So anyways, back to your reading, even though, like I said, I know it was nothing for you. A day has not passed for you, but, what we were talking about was play, transmute, and your reclaim card in correspondence to the rest of this reading. So basically, what Spirit is ultimately trying to convey to you is that in order to start finding that magical thinking, that optimism, and moving to a new space mentally that has maybe been very dark for you, it's really important to connect with play. Play, transmuting the dark energy, and reclaiming your own personal power. And nobody said that this was going to be easy. And Spirit is also reminding me to tell you that not only is it not necessarily going to be the easiest work you will ever do, but Spirit wants you to know that in order for this to get better, you have to show up regardless of how you're feeling. And that doesn't mean like every single day you're going to be brunt forcing things. That's not the point. It's that there are going to be times where you're feeling the feelings of anxiety, or you're feeling the feelings of worry, of doubt, of self-hatred, of self-deprecation. And the thing to remember is you show up anyways. This is like how some of the best, most intentional work is done for yourself to better your situation, is showing up regardless. And when we say show up, it's not like, it's literally just showing up for you mentally, becoming your own inner wise parent that gently guides your mind back to center, back to self, back to loving, open thoughts. And you have the power within you to do this. You wouldn't have picked up on this reading if you were not somebody who was meant to do this. People that come to my channel and are attracted to the readings that I do, this is the kind of energy that you sometimes deal with. And the reason that you are here listening to me is because I am somebody that has held that torch before. And so I'm able to connect really easily with divine messages that talk about these things. And so for you, you might spend a lot of time here and a lot of time in your feelings, in self-work, in connecting with yourself. And Spirit is reminding you that it's time for you to step into that playful, childlike attitude and to transmute the negative by, and it's like, I don't even want to say transforming the negative into a positive, but that's really what it is. It's transforming that negative energy into positive energy and asking yourself, what have these life lessons taught me? How can I spin the narratives that I've been telling myself to better myself? And this is not about making yourself better for someone else. You have to do it for yourself. And some of you, Spirit is saying, have children, and you have it in your head that you have to be somebody for your child. You don't. It is so much more important that your child witnesses you save yourself. That is what they need from you, is to witness a kind, loving parent themselves, because children pick up on what their parents do. They are little sponges. So if you're a parent and you're listening to this, please know that it's not your job to become something for your child. I'm not saying that that can't be positive motivation. It's more about your child witnessing you take care of yourself. That is what they need modeled to them. And that is direct out of Spirit's mouth. So, because I don't have children. So the next few cards we have for you are, these to me are a lot more gentle energy. These are just some closing messages for you that are really meant to open your heart center a little bit more, especially towards yourself, with all of the self cards that we got for you. So we have the return, a new story, you decide, alignment, it's coming together. So this card literally is parroting the things that I've already said to you, that you need to create the new story. You need to create the new version of yourself. And it's not because the old version had anything wrong with them. In fact, it's so much better to have loving compassion for the person that has carried you this far. Like, even, I'm getting the chills, even the parts of you that you desperately hate, if there's any parts of you that you have hatred for, those parts of you still carried you here. If I could give you an example on this from my own life that I know you're getting a lot of that in your reading, and I think it's because we are similar souls that Spirit is like, just share your authentic story, Kloee, just share. But if this is any help for you, I am going to trigger warning if like you are not in a place to hear about like body dysmorphia, eating disorders, things like that. We're going to touch on something a little bit more personal in the moment, but if like that's something you cannot hear about, just go ahead and skip ahead a few minutes. But basically, I used to struggle really bad with, first it was like anorexia in my high school years, and then that transformed into binge eating disorder. And I used to hate the person that I was. I hated her so much. And when I finally healed that part of myself and got better, it was when I lovingly connected with that version of myself that used to overeat, because that version of me that would just stuff my face and stuff my feelings, that was the coping mechanism that she had to use to survive really abusive situations. And so even that version of myself was loving for myself in the best way that she knew how. And so that might not be your exact situation, but that's what I mean when I say loving the parts of yourself that maybe you're not as proud of. That version of you still brought you where you are today. And I don't know why she is coming through so strong. You might not identify as she, but that version of yourself, he, she, they, that version of yourself brought you to where you are today. And you need to return back to that person and love them, because you are at the return point in your life now. You're ready to curate a new story, but there are these parts of you that are trying to scream and cry out because you're not giving them loving compassion. And you are moving more and more and more in alignment with yourself, your purpose, your path. This new story is wanting to be written and birthed through you. But in order to do that, you have to meet yourself with more loving compassion than you have been. And we also have the Rose of Venus alignment. Oh my gosh, you got alignment twice. Alignment, flow, right relationship, and harmony. So some of you, maybe you've dealt with a past abusive partner or an abusive relationship, or like in the past, there is something to do with a relationship that was hurtful. And now you're actually in a more beautiful place, not only with yourself, but possibly with someone else if you are in a relationship. And this is a reminder that you're actually in a positive place right now. There is a relationship that is wanting to come through for you. And this could be a romantic relationship, but it doesn't have to be. Sometimes this is friendships. This is reconnection with family. This is relationships that are born of beauty and harmony. So for some of you, it could be a romantic partner that just lovingly holds you. For some of you, it is going to be the connection through those other sources. But right now, you are stepping into one of the most aligned time periods that you've ever experienced, is what Spirit is saying to me. And literally, you're being told to work on this aspect of yourself because you're going to move in such a way. Gosh, I'm going to start crying about it again. Y'all, I haven't gotten super emotionally whacked during a reading in a very long time. That's how I know that my energy is like balanced again and I'm feeling good, is I feel so much more connected to the work that I put out. Y'all know I used to be a crying mess all the time, but I shouldn't say mess. We're not trying to give a negative spin to emotions here. Old habits die hard. But I just really get the sense that you've hurt a lot in your life. And that makes me very sad. But Spirit is ultimately saying that you are stepping into such an aligned timeline for yourself that you're not going to believe it unless you make these changes, because like you will do something almost immediately to sabotage your efforts because you haven't done the work to upkeep what you're being given. And it's not like this is going to be rudely ripped away from you. It's that Spirit wants your life to be filled with more ease because you deserve it. You've been through hell, and you need to be open to trusting that through that hell, love can exist for you again, for yourself, for the people around you, etc. And then we have 3 more cards. These are from the Linda Fabry deck. So these are just like extra little loving messages, like I said. And we have for you the Abundant Creator, which says, and oh, let me put my glasses back on. I took them off because I started weeping. The Abundant Creator, an unending stream of creative energy is pouring into your vessel. It has the potential to express through you as joy, health, wealth, etc. You convert the current, therefore you choose the currency. So this is about, again, filling yourself up so much that you worry for nothing. Everything comes to you in an abundance right now. And honestly, I think this energy is gorgeous. This is a card I love to see. I think we talked about earlier in your reading, maybe you're somebody that is creative, like you are the abundant creator. You hold the overflowing chalice. Then we have the Seeker's Return. Oh my gosh. Why are y'all getting me all in my feelings today? This card is really significant to me too, because during my own mental health stuff that I went through over the last year, this card showed up at the end when I was actually starting to feel better, and it was such a welcomed card that I would find myself crying over this card. So the Seeker's Return. Don't be discouraged if you find yourself back at the start. The seeds you've sown now bear fruit, and you're entering a paradise of self-discovery. And then we have for you, surrender to your soul, relinquish the illusion of control, and let go into love. You've asked and you've prepared for transformation. Oh. Now trust your innate wisdom to lead and allow the graceful unfurling of your new form. I'm sorry, I'm going to read it one more time. Relinquish the illusion of control and let go into love. You've asked and you've prepared for transformation. Now trust your innate wisdom to lead and allow the graceful unfurling of your new form. So a lot of you have asked for this new beginning. You have cried, you have prayed, you have asked, you have spellcasted, you have read your own cards, like you have done the most. Maybe not every single thing, but you have asked for this and it's finally here. And I think that's another reason I'm getting so emotionally entangled with this is believe me when I tell you, pile number 1, I have felt this. And so it hurts so much more because I know what this feels like. To feel like you have pleaded on your knees for something to be better. And this is the promise that the better is here. So this is the message that I have for you, pal number 1. Please take care of yourself. Please know that you are so unbelievably divinely loved. And know that you can course correct. You do not have to believe the lies that your head tries to tell you. And you actually are in control and you can make new choices. And the new beginning is here. It's here right now for you. This reading is, when you are seeing this, this is the time. The time is now. And that is what I have for you, pal number 1. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you for letting me be my authentic self. Thank you for showing up with your authenticity. Thank you to your guides for showing up. It feels really weird to do my ending spiel right now after something that emotional, but I'm going to do my best. So if you would like to support me more as a creator, I do have my Patreon. It allows me to put out more content, especially more personal content that maybe doesn't always get the highest views. I'm able to make more of that because of Patreon that supports me in doing it. You get a bunch of extra content if you join, and a whole library of content that's backlogged over there for the last year. tons of readings are available over there. You get readings that you don't get anywhere else, weekly energy updates, and so much more. You can also book a private reading with me. I sell them only on my website. I will never solicit you for a reading directly. Those are scammers on Instagram and TikTok. There is only one Kloee Taylor, and I will never come to you and ask you for a reading. You can only book through my website, KhloeTaylor.com. I do accept tips for my readings, never an expectation, always appreciated. I have my Cashapp, Venmo, PayPal listed down below. I also do have my wish list for those of you that ask for it. Please don't forget to check out the podcast, especially if you want more like heartwarming content of like moving forward on your journey, or you resonated with any of the things I talked to you about today. My podcast is somewhere where I have really opened up about a lot of those experiences. And it's Divine Authenticity. It's available on Spotify, Apple, Google, everywhere you listen to podcasts. I am at Kloee Taylor on Instagram and TikTok if you want to follow me. I also have a Twitter, but I don't really use it. Same though, at Kloee Taylor. And please do not forget pile number 1, when you stand in your own authenticity, you empower everyone around you to do the same. I love you so, so, so much. And I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day. And please, like, go back and listen to this reading again if you need to hear it again, because I think that this was a message that was long time in coming for many of you. All right, so pile number 2, if you chose the change card, this is going to be what you need to hear right now from Spirit, everything you need to hear. And pile number 1 was doing the most, so we'll see what's in store for you. We have a resistance to change is a resistance to life itself. Open your heart and mind to new beginnings. So this is really interesting to me because I totally agree that a resistance to change is a resistance to life, because that is the one consistent that we have in this life, is that everything always changes. Even if you look at nature, it changes. Like literally everything, every situation, everything changes. So it would be in a resistance to life. But we're going to talk about these once we get all of them laid out. So we have growth. And we have evolution starts when you leave your comfort zone. Get comfortable with being uncomfortable. We also have for you surrender. I love that it's an angel. I feel like you have an angel guide trying to come through for you in this reading. We have stop trying to control life. It gets in the way of divine intervention. Ooh, I love that I talked to you about nature as well, because you can't really control nature either. We have speak up. It says, if you avoid conflict to keep the peace, you start a war inside yourself. And shine. Don't dim your light. The world needs your unique gifts and talents. Shine brightly. So I love, love, love the message that is already starting to take shape for you, pile number 2. So for you, I feel like we're already getting this message that something clearly has to change in your life. And I don't think that it is actually anybody around you that needs to change. I mean, there might be people that do, but the thing is it's you. You are the common denominator. And it is time, Spirit is saying, for you to no longer create dis-ease within yourself, meaning it's time for you to speak up, to stand up for yourself, to lay boundaries and to shine as brightly as possible, because you have been dimming yourself in the name of family, in the name of old outdated friendships. And here's the thing. I know that in a wholesome reality, all of us would have big, open, bleeding, loving hearts for each other, because we're all one. But sometimes people cannot meet us where we are, and it is more destructive to ourselves if we do not lay appropriate boundaries, especially if there is somebody that is impeding on your ability to change or grow in a direction that would be beneficial for you. We also have stop trying to control life. It gets in the way. I think this is ultimately about people-pleasing tendencies. I know that sometimes there is an argument for people pleasing actually being about the other person, but I really want to give you some food for thought for a moment. And I know that this can be a very hard pill to swallow, but people pleasing isn't actually about being kind to other people when you look at it from a different perspective. It is more about you controlling the narrative about how other people see you, because you have it in your head that you need to be a kind person, a good boy, a good girl, a good person. And when we don't take care of our inner world, our inner needs, we try to basically get people to meet our own needs by people pleasing. And like I said, I know it sounds like people pleasing sounds like it's a nice thing to do because we're trying to be kind, loving, and please somebody else. But when it actually goes against our core inner values, because there are some things we can just be nice for being nice's sake. But when it goes against your core inner values that would put you in alignment with a better position for yourself, this is where it turns into something that can be a little bit more toxic. And the reason I'm bringing this up is Spirit is ultimately saying that you need to understand that there is a negative side to people pleasing. It's not just about you not getting your needs met. It also is about you stunting your own growth and you basically allowing yourself to accept things that you shouldn't be accepting for yourself, that you deserve better. You deserve to change. Change is the one consistent. And trying to control other people's narratives of you is one of the first, this can be really difficult, especially in today's society, because a lot of people are living in codependency. It's everywhere. Even the way that the media produces movies, your faves are problematic in rom-coms. There is a ton of codependency, a ton of manipulation, a ton of abuse in those movies that we don't even see because it's constantly being portrayed as love. And that's the heart of what I'm getting from this reading is you are meant to speak up, to shine, to not try to control what everybody thinks of you. And that is when your evolution will actually take place, is getting really, really, really comfortable with being uncomfortable, with breaking a cycle, because there is a cycle that has been turning over consistently, maybe in your family line, maybe just in your life. You keep getting met with the same people, the same situations. And Spirit ultimately keeps bringing this to your attention because you are meant to break a cycle. So I know that all of that can be very hard to hear, especially if you are a chronic people pleaser and you think that you're not hurting anyone. You're hurting yourself is what you're doing. And that's not why you came to be here. You didn't come here to just hurt yourself over and over and over again. You came here to change, to be ever evolving, to shine your unique light. And this reading might come as a slap to the face in that regard. I told you it was going to be Spirit was going to tell you everything you needed to hear. So we also have you heal by releasing, not suppressing. What emotions do you need to feel? So this goes in tandem with exactly what I'm talking about. When you people please, you suppress and suppress and suppress. And you also try to get your needs met through other people in a way that is less obvious. And it creates a literal war inside yourself. It doesn't actually help you long term. You end up in a lot of situations that feel more chaotic. You end up feeling the feelings of nervousness or dis-ease when you're around certain people when these behaviors come out. And I'm telling you these things not because you're meant to beat yourself up. That's not the point of this. If that is how you are using my reading right now, is to be down on yourself, genuinely, I say this with love and light, please click out of this reading. I don't want you using this reading in a way that is going to make you feel worse about yourself. That is never the goal. It is about bringing gentle awareness to you so that you can create loving, compassionate change in your life. So I'm so serious when I say this. If this is making you feel worse about yourself by this being pulled up and making you aware, maybe come back to this reading at another time, because that is not the goal. This is about bringing awareness to you so that you can start to break this cycle. So what is it that you are not letting yourself feel? I do think that we are at a beautiful day and age where emotions are a lot more talked about. We're not hiding them. We're letting men cry. We're letting, really, to me, it is the divine feminine rising, right? We're having more discussions around mental health. People are feeling safer to express themselves in certain situations. Granted, it's not everywhere. Sometimes some of us are still being oppressed by other people we live with or what have you. But I do think we're in a beautiful age where this is starting to subside. We're seeing it across the board everywhere that we look. And this to me is saying, like, you're a part of this too. You're a part of this ecosystem. You're a part of this universe. And your feelings are just as valid as the next person's. And it's okay for you to get in there and feel. It's okay. It's safe for you to feel through what you need to feel through in order to stop continuing this pattern. And if you don't feel safe to do it on your own, I'm always going to encourage you to seek help. I'm always going to encourage you to seek help. This video is not sponsored by BetterHelp in any way, shape, or form, but we have worked with them in the past, so I will put the link down below for you. BetterHelp is a service that I actually use myself, and it is cheaper than paying out of pocket for a therapist. I say that from personal experience a few times. So, if you feel like you cannot process on your own, it's a good time to work with somebody else one-on-one that can help you process, to help you get there. Because if it's work you've never been seen done in your own family line or anybody around you, you might be the first, and that can be really scary to navigate. But you heal by releasing, not suppressing and stuffing all of your feelings down. Then we have for you, anxiety is, why is everybody's reading about mental health today? Please remember that I am not a mental health professional. Like, I know a lot about psychology because I've studied it. I'm fascinated by it. I still continue to study it, but like, please don't use my readings as I am not a therapist. Like, please, if you're looking for therapeutic help, make sure you seek somebody. My readings are not supposed to take the place of that. But we have anxiety isn't trying to limit you, but free you from a situation that no longer feels good. What is your discomfort trying to free you from? This was actually something that, this is something that even I have dealt with, where I've had like a lot of very anxious feelings come up, and I've had to sit with those anxious feelings and ask, where is it coming from? I started to, and I'm telling you this because this might be something good to start practicing in your life because this is coming up so strong. This might be a good time for you to, even when you sit with other people, family members, friends, TV shows, whatever it is, check in with yourself. Check in with your nervous system. If you're feeling really heavy around your mom or dad, stop going over to their house. The end. Like, if you're feeling like when you talk to a quote unquote friend that you're never being listened to or seen, and again, it leaves your nervous system feeling kind of wonky, notice that, acknowledge that. Your body is always communicating with you. For I don't even know how many years, since like the dawn of psychology, we have only focused on the mind when the entire body comes into play. So notice that. Notice where the feelings of anxiety, if they're coming up in you, notice where they are. Ask yourself if they have a texture, if they have a color that can be identified, if they bring up a memory where you felt this before. Notice the pattern, because there is a pattern that is trying to present itself to you. And the moment you become aware is the moment your healing journey starts. Then we have your true tribe can't show up until you do. How can you show more of the real you? So I also get the sense that you don't feel like you have a ton of real connection in your life. You might have a few people, but for the most part, you don't feel like you have a lot of real authentic connection. And this is why. It is this. It is because you aren't showing up as your full-fledged authentic self. And the moment you start giving yourself gentle, loving awareness and doing it, that's when those people start to show up. I say this from personal experience. Like, personal experience, I have a huge stake in this one. But when you start to show up as yourself, that's when you're going to start connecting with people that will love you for that authenticity, right? This is like the channel for people that want to be their most authentic selves. So if that's what you feel like is missing, is true authentic connection, ask yourself how you can be more authentic. Because again, we have a lot of people pleasing. We have a lot of trying to get our needs met in ways that we had maybe our parental figures modeled to us in the past. How can you break the chain? You didn't come here to break this chain because you weren't supposed to do it. You came here to break the chain because you do have the power to do it. Nobody said it was going to be easy. Nobody said it was going to be something you were just going to blink and it was going to happen. Sometimes you have to show up to break that cycle every single day until you move forward. And your true tribe, or your true circle of people that love you for your most authentic self, they're not going to come through until you do this. And again, I'm not saying you don't have a single authentic person in your life. I actually really get the feeling that you do, just based on like what I'm channeling and seeing through my third eye. I get the sense that you maybe have one or two people that are authentic, you are authentic enough with, but I get the sense that you would like more. And that is where the blockage is. This is why I feel like you also might even struggle with a little bit of fear of your authentic self, because somebody taught you that that version of you should be hidden from the world. And again, this is very common in today's world, extremely common. You are not alone. And I want to instill that in you, because that's why you're here. That's why you're drawn to these readings. That's why you're drawn to my channel, is to be reminded that you're not alone. And there are other people that are seeking this same thing. And for you to draw them in, you have to be yourself and stop trying to fit into a box that everybody else, especially if it's family, a box that anybody else has put you in. But even if it's not family and it's like friends that put you in a box, no, you don't need none of that energy. Okay, then we have for you the cards. Oh my goodness. We have the Manifest card. Love to see it. Beautiful, beautiful. We have for you Compassion. This is all about self-compassion, which we've been basically talking about this whole time. And then we also have the Sage. So listen. First of all, I need you to stop doubting your manifestations. Spirit is laughs. This is me over here laughing in uncomfortable Gemini moon. Spirit is literally saying that you have manifested so many things. You have manifested so many good things into your life, and you constantly feel like you're not worthy of more. Spirit is saying absolutely not. And you can also manifest from an anxious place. Like, something that I don't feel like is talked about enough in the spiritual community is people, think that they have to be perfect and not be stressed out or not have other feelings in order to manifest. That's not true. You can absolutely have the feelings of anxiety about something and still manifest good things into your life. I would not have half the things that I do if the latter were true, that you couldn't do that, because I have dealt with a plethora of anxiousness. So it's simply not true. Like, you can manifest from every state of being. Now, granted, is it easier when you're able to get into a lighter, higher frequency? Absolutely. But that doesn't mean that you can't do it from anywhere else. And that's kind of like its own standalone message. You just need to shine and stop doubting your greatness, because you have incredible manifesting power, and Spirit is honestly getting kind of annoyed because you keep receiving things and then a week later you're like, nope, it's never going to get good again. No, it's going to continue to get good. Compassion is coming through because you just need to have more loving self-compassion. That is like this whole thing that we're discussing here, is when you meet yourself with loving compassion. This is why I said, if you're using this reading to judge yourself, click out, because that's not why we're here. You're here right now to gain awareness so that you can change the situation and have more loving self-compassion. And I would encourage anybody that is listening to this reading, if you have not done it, please go search up into YouTube loving self-compassion meditation or just self-compassion meditation and do one. Even if it's just like a 5-minute, go and do a loving compassion meditation for yourself. Truly life-changing experience. And then we have the sage for you, which I think is really amazing because you're also being told from spirit directly that you have so much wisdom to instill on this planet. And I think when people hear this, sometimes it's like, oh, but I'm not wise. I don't know anything. What are you talking about? You think that you have to take something to the world at large. Sometimes it's just having wisdom in your community. Sometimes it's wisdom in the family. Sometimes it's wisdom with your child. Sometimes it's wisdom to your animals. It doesn't always have to be you're in an arena filling millions of seats. Sometimes it is the small things that become the big things. And for you, you have so much wisdom to impart. This is another reason that Spirit led you here to hear this message is you're not acting in accordance with your authentic self, and therefore people are not getting the wisdom that you have, that you came here to share. So ask yourself right now, what lights you up on the inside? Or I also think the latter. It's not always what lights you up. Sometimes it's what gets you fired up, like angry. What sends you into a tailspin of a rage when you see it happening and you're like, nope, not on my watch. For example, in my life, when people try to come for me and tell me that like gentle parenting is not the way forward, this shit makes me outraged because I know too much in the realm of child psychology. I know too much, and I genuinely believe for myself that that is how we will change the world, is by changing the way that we raise children. And children do not deserve a lot of the stuff that parents put on them, especially when it comes to anger. A lot of parents have dysregulated nervous systems and take out their anger on their children when they're having a bad day. And that's something that fills me with rage. Like, if there was ever a, what's the word? If there was ever like we were going to go and picket somewhere for this, I would be the first person making a sign. Like, so ask yourself those kinds of questions. What fills you with rage? But also, what fills you with love and compassion? What lights you up on the inside? Because when you can marry those two things in the middle, that's where the true authentic wisdom comes through. So I know I just explained something very vulnerable for me to you that like, oh no, this spiritual person feels rage sometimes. I know a lot of y'all are a lot more down to earth and a lot more real, but some people aren't. Some people expect perfection from a spiritual based channel. I also know that I don't live in that. Like, I don't proclaim that. I don't proclaim perfectionism or that I'm trying to be anything other than what I am. But I think that's also why a lot of the messages that I'm able to channel come so effortlessly to me, is because I think we're all truly just children playing dress up as adults. And if we can honor that inner child, that inner wounding that maybe has occurred, that's where we will see growth within ourselves as well. And because I'm able to meet that, I feel like that's where like that sage wisdom can come through, especially when it comes to working with higher realms to deliver those messages to the earth. So my point to that is you have this within you too. It doesn't mean that it's exactly that way. That might not be the thing that fills you with rage. It might not be the thing that also lights you up to talk about it, to express it, to give it to others. It might be a totally different topic. Maybe for you, like you're in the resin community and it triggers the hell out of you when somebody learns a new technique and they refuse to share it. But also you could talk about resin pours like all day, right? This is just an example, but that's what I'm saying. Like it could be, it's in the middle. Where can you meet yourself in the middle with that? Or maybe you're really invested in like witchcraft content, and witch talk really pisses you off when they gatekeep. But at the same time, you love talking about magic. It lights you up from the inside. That's what I'm saying. When like you find the way to bridge that gap, that is where your sage wisdom is going to shine through the most. And you have it. And your circle of people that are also looking for you need that from you. So it's in your best interest to change these things so you can get there. Then we have for you, trust the seasons, embrace change, cycles of life, transition, and growth. And we have for you, after the rain, silver lining, relief, hope, mercy, it's over, acceptance. So trust the seasons, embracing change, cycles of life, transition, and growth. Literally, that's what your whole reading has been about. The heart of your reading was the change card back here. So this is about embracing change, accepting change as normal, because it is. And after the rain, I think this is about doing your own inner workings that are going to lead to so much healing for you, and knowing that after you let yourself cry, after you let yourself really feel into the feelings of what you've been dealing with, that is when it starts to get better. Have you ever just like ugly cried? And afterwards, when you dry your tears, when you put on a cozy outfit or you shower, what have you, you get comfy, you feel so much better getting that off your chest. Did you know that tears are one of the best ways to release cortisol from the body? That's why crying feels so healing when you let it happen. And like, honestly, I'm at a point in my life where I love to cry. Truly, like, obviously it's not my favorite thing in the world, but like, if I feel like I'm gonna cry, I will make myself cry. Like, I'll be like, all right, let me go put on like a sad song and let me just let it out. Because I know after I let out these tears, I'm gonna feel so much better. I'm at the point now where I love to cry. Shit is like therapy. So after the rain, this is about that. It's about the relief that comes after the tears have been shed. So it's over, acceptance, hope, mercy, relief. That is what is coming. And these last three cards I have for you are just like really lovely messages that are coming up for you from Spirit. This is from the Linda Fabry deck. And you first got smoke signals, clear communication with other beings with clarity and acceptance of self. I'm sorry. Let me read that again. Clear communication with other beings with clarity and acceptance of self. Your words may not translate exactly, but your message of love always comes through. So this is that same reminder that you need to be laying down boundaries, that maybe like if this is like that sage wisdom that's like, if somebody has a problem with your boundaries, it's because they benefited from you not having them. And it doesn't mean anything now that you've put them in place. It benefits you. It's not supposed to benefit them. And then we have nurtured by nature. Wellness is our natural state. We sometimes forget this, and that's okay. Simply return to Gaia. Rest your soul upon the earth, and like a child resting safely at the bosom of the mother, she will remind you. So you're also getting a lot about nature in your reading. Like, we talked about trusting the seasons here, and now you're getting nature. You got rain. I feel like this is also a call from Spirit to really let nature heal you. So even if you can't get outside, maybe it's really, really hot where you are. Maybe it's really, really cold where you are. Maybe there is a reason that it doesn't feel good for you to step outside. I'm always going to encourage you do it anyways if you can, even if it's just for a couple of minutes. But if not, this is a really profound way that you can start using the digital devices that you have. Like, put on nature sounds and wear headphones, or just play them out loud in your home. Connect with nature in some way because it has healing for you. I swear to you, and this might sound hippy dippy as hell, and I don't even care. I swear to you, any problem that you have, if you are able to go out and connect with nature, you will find the answer before you come home. Like, nature just has this way of showing the truth to you. If you have anything that needs to be solved, nature will show you what to do. If you look for magic, you're going to find it. And lastly, we have whimsical wisdom. There exists within you a realm of profound wisdom. It is not found by facing reality, but by following the fun. Be playful and be led by the jubilant song of your heart. So literally, you got wisdom so many times in your reading, twice in particular right here, but just finding wisdom, finding your wisdom, and letting that wisdom fill you up so much so that you brim over. And that is the message. That is everything Spirit wants you to hear right now. Thank you so much for tuning in, pile number 2. Do not forget that I have my Patreon if you want to support the content that I make here. You get early access to my content. You can join the book club that we do every month now. We also have energy updates every single week. I sit down with the tarot cards. I tell you what's coming up in the week ahead, and so much more. You also get a backlog of content when you join from all of the last year. Our Patreon is over a year old now, and there are so many timeless readings over there that you can't get anywhere else. You can also book me for a reading on my website, KhloeTaylor.com. I will never solicit you for a reading, so if you ever see this on Instagram, TikTok, it's not me, it's a scammer account. Make sure you check for periods, underscores, double letters, except for the EE and Kloee, that's obviously me. But there's been a lot of scammers going around. I will never go out of my way to solicit you for a reading. You can only book through my website, KhloeTaylor.com. I also do accept tips for my readings. It is never an expectation, but always appreciated. I have my Cashapp, Venmo, and PayPal listed down below if you would like to tip me. It definitely helps me out, and I pour it back into the channel unless you tell me not to in the notes. I also have my wish list for those of you that ask for it. Again, no expectations there, but it is available. And I have my podcast, Divine Authenticity, new episodes every Tuesday, available wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. So if you would like to listen to it, it's always available every Tuesday. We talk very candidly there too. Like, I think it's a good time. I also have my Instagram, my TikTok, and my Twitter, but I don't really use her a lot. I'm at Kloee Taylor. If you would like to join me, I definitely spend most of my time on Instagram, but TikTok gets some things sometimes too. And please do not forget, pile number 2, when you stand in your own authenticity, you empower everyone around you to do the same. And I'll talk to you in the next one. Bye. Hello there, pile number 3, and welcome to your reading. If you chose the Rebel card, this is your reading. So we're going to get started with some of these self-care cards. You picked the Rebel, and it says, it's time to celebrate the fact that you don't fit in. Stand on your own 2 feet. We have authenticity. I love it. Live life for you, not the audience in your head. We have passion. Light up your life by honoring your deepest desires. We have mind. You are the master of your inner world, and you decide how the outer world affects you. Cultivate a calm inner state. And we have body, which says your body deserves your love. So, excuse me. Let me go ahead and let me straighten these up a little bit for you. So, I feel like you obviously chose the Rebel card because maybe you're feeling a little rebellious now, or maybe you consider yourself to be a rebel. There was a reason that you were drawn to this card in particular. And what I'm really getting is, first and foremost, you are on the cutting edge. If you are a rebel at this time right now, we have Saturn moving through the sign of Aquarius. It's going to keep moving through the sign of Aquarius until March of next year. So this isn't just for people that have Saturn natally in Aquarius. This is something that collectively we're all experiencing. Though if you are in your Saturn return, you're going to feel this a lot more. But Aquarius, Saturn in Aquarius is kind of like the rebel to society in a way, because Aquarius is the sign of authenticity. And if you are not living in accordance with your most authentic self, I mean, I get the sense that you might be because you're rebellious. You're rebellious to the societal norms that are already in place. And because of that, you light up when you honor your deepest, truest self, and living for yourself, not the audience in your head or the family members that you think are watching on social media. That makes you a rebel, because so many people are stuck in this box of, oh, I can't post that because my mom might see it, or so and so forced me to go to this family function. You are the person that says no. No is a complete sentence. I'm following what my deepest desires are. I'm not living up to your standard. I'm living up to my standard. And if you don't feel like you're there yet, but you feel like you have this inner rebel that is trying to come out, this is just another sign that this is the reading that was meant for you. So we also have the body and the mind card, which I think is really interesting, because the body and mind, we need both aspects. When I think about the realm of even healing and working on being our most rebellious selves, I feel like it is a top-down, bottom-up approach. So if we were going top-down, we would start with the mind. If we were going bottom-up, we would start with the body. And really, to have a whole person healing experience, you have to go top down, bottom up. You gotta meet the whole self. And for you, reclaiming your body as your home, and also reclaiming your mind and creating your own inner peace, this also makes you a rebel to society, because a lot of people will also not do this work, and you're doing something extraordinary. Spirit is here to remind you that being a rebel doesn't have to look like wearing leather jackets and dark lipstick and cutting your hair into a pixie cut. Now, sometimes it is that. Maybe I literally just described you to a T, but it's not always that. It's giving yourself that loving compassion towards your body, creating the safe space in your mind, choosing to put social media down, choosing to post things that are in accordance of you instead of trying to stunt on family members. I actually encourage, if there is anybody in your realm that you won't post certain things because you know that that person is watching, kick them out of your social media circle. And I don't know why this message is coming through so strongly for you, pile number 3. I get the sense that you dim your lights because of somebody that is watching. Kick them out of your online presence. I myself have my own mother blocked on my social media, because though I love her and I can have love for her and I can love her at a distance, because y'all know that relationship is a little rocky. We've talked about it. Though I have love for her and I do have a relationship with her, I don't permit her in my social media spaces because I don't need the judgment, frankly. So this is okay for you to set that kind of boundary. If there is anyone that is keeping you from being your most authentic self, both in your own life or in your online sphere, I don't know why Aquarius is coming through so strong. Maybe you have Aquarius in a major placement. I think it's because I also think of Aquarius as a rebel in some regard, but Aquarius demands independence as well. And if you don't feel independent, like you can flow in your life in some regard, you need to remove the things from your life, even if they're people that keep you from that. And everybody has Aquarius in their chart somewhere, because the way that I talk about it as an astrologer is, if you think about the map of the stars that was there the moment you were born, right? The moment, the time, the place, the constellation of Aquarius didn't just fall out of the sky right at the moment that you were born. It's still there. And that means that you still have a correspondence in your chart to Aquarius, even if it's just something small. So I would honestly, if you know anything about astrology, or even if you don't, I really like the website AstroSeek. This is not sponsored. I just actually use that website a lot. It's astro dash, there's like a hyphen, seek, seek.com. You can look up where Aquarius is in your chart there, but my point to bringing all of this up is it might just be like a certain house that you require more independence in your charts. I'm getting big, strong Aquarian energy from this reading. And so I want to remind you that everybody has an Aquarius placement. And where this is shining for you is somewhere where you feel like you are being restricted. And that makes sense because we also have Saturn moving through the sign of Aquarius. And so that is an area of your life that will be restricted because Saturn is the planet of restriction, discipline, and lessons. So it's like daddy karma. Daddy karma, but also not because you've done anything wrong. Saturn also strengthens you over time. So with Saturn going through that sign, we are having to understand our independence in a certain sector of our life. And you are wanting to be rebellious in this area. And this is a sign, if you chose this reading, that you should. So we're going to keep going into the reading and seeing what else is coming up for you. So we have your purpose is personal expansion. How can you be more intentional with your choices and live with more purpose? So I really think pile number 3, if that resonated with you, if you like don't post thirst traps, or you don't post things on childhood neglect, or you don't post things because you don't want somebody to feel some type of way about you, this is your sign to remove them from your online space, especially if you're somebody that is more public. Like maybe you are seen by more people or in your community even. It doesn't even mean that you have to outright block them. You can, if you're on Instagram, for example, you can hide your stories from certain people. Like you don't have to make everything public. And the thing is, something is cutting off your expansion. I'm going to roll the astro dice for you, pile number 3, because I just feel, in fact, I'm going to roll all 3 of them. I feel like there is somebody in particular. I want you to choose a number between 1 and 3, and I'm going to roll these dice 3 times. And so it'll correspond. If you pick 2, it'll be the second roll. If you pick 3, it'll be the third roll. If you pick 1, it's going to be the first. I didn't do this for any of the other piles, but there is somebody that's really watching you online, and it's the reason that you don't feel like you can be your authentic self. Maybe they actually watch you personally, and I don't mean like they're stalking you like it's dangerous. You know, I'm not getting a danger feeling. They're watching what you do online, and it's like the reason you feel like you can't be yourself. So if you chose number 1, this person has major Pisces energy in their big 3, sun, moon, rising. They might be also like Jupiter dominant. I want to say Jupiter was also one of the like original rulers of Pisces. And we also have the 4th house. So this is somebody in your family. Or if you chose number 1, this is somebody in your family. They have major Pisces or possibly major Sagittarius energy in their big 3. If you chose 2, we have the 11th house of Aquarius, Capricorn, and the North Node. So this is somebody that keeps you from walking your authentic path. They might have Capricorn in their sun, moon, rising, or Aquarius, sun, moon, rising. Or they could also be somebody who is a friend. I don't think this is family because the 11th house is the house of friendship. And then if you chose 3... this person, we have the 8th house, we have Venus, and this is an ex-partner. Or it could even be like your current partner. Maybe there's some things that you need to talk about, but I feel like this is an ex coming back because we have, like I said, wait, is this Venus? I'm sorry, this is Mercury. We have Mercury. It's somebody that you used to talk a lot to. The 8th house does deal with like sexual energy, even if you weren't having sex with them. And Libra is ruled by the planet Venus, and it deals with partnerships. So this is somebody that you were previously romantically linked to. Maybe you had a crush on them. Maybe you were in a relationship with them. They watch you, and it makes you feel like you can't be yourself. So get rid of these people. Get them out of your space. Even if you don't delete them from your life, get them out of the places where you feel like you can't be authentic because it's keeping you from your own expansion. We also have, when peace is your priority, negativity cannot exist. How can you see through the eyes of source energy and prioritize your inner peace? So remember, if you remove somebody from your life, it's not about them. It's about you. I know that many of us that are highly sensitive, empaths, we want people to feel good in our energy. We're worried about what somebody's going to think if we delete them. Oh no, they blocked me. They must hate me. Remember that your online space is your space. I am a huge advocate, and I will always talk about this, for creating the space online that you want to experience. If you don't want to see negative shit in your feed all day, every day, go and follow positive accounts if that makes you feel better when you engage on social media. Because here's the thing, I'm not saying that you need to have an echo chamber, you need to become complacent, you need to agree with the way that the world is. No, but I do think that when we engage in social media, the human mind has not evolved to have more than 100 connections at any one given time. And when we are also being fearmongered by the news 24/7, or by hateful, spiteful people, or people who don't want to see us do well, we let that into our sphere and it starts to affect us and deteriorate us over time. So again, I'm not saying that you can't engage with things that maybe are a little bit more intense or hard to look at, but I'm always going to advocate for you protecting yourself, protecting your mental health. And if that means taking a step back, changing who you follow, people that get mad and petty about you unfollowing them, that's on them. It has nothing to do with you. Why are they even looking at your profile to see if you're still following? Like, that should be trigger, like red flag number one. When do you ever go and look at somebody's account and see if they're still following you? Like, I don't know. Maybe that's just me. I don't do that, but it usually has nothing to do with you, and it's the person protecting their own peace. So you are allowed to do this too. Don't worry about what other people are going to think about you doing that. In fact, there's somebody that I follow online, that wonderful creator. She goes by the name of Shady Lady. Hey, Shady Lady. She's on Twitch. She reads tarot. She's freaking phenomenal. She recently deleted everybody, went down to zero, following zero people, and then intentionally started re-adding people, and basically said, don't take it personally. It's not personal. It's me trying to have authentic connection and letting people into my space that I actually engage with. It's not about, oh, a follow for follow, or you know what I'm saying? So I think this is brilliant, protecting that online space. And I myself, I didn't go down to zero, but I recently did something very similar with my account. And I did unfollow a bunch of accounts that I didn't feel like I was interacting with anymore. And some of those accounts were people that maybe I was friends with at one time, but I feel like having authentic connection, and I don't know, the online space is just coming through so clearly for you, pile number 3, but making that authentic connection, especially in the digital age, it's very important. It is going to continue to pave the way for the future. So don't be afraid to take control of that space. It's yours to take control of. And we also have for you, you can radically change your results by shifting your beliefs. What belief is limiting you? That I feel like is just a message in and of itself, pile number 3, that you have some limiting beliefs that are coming up. It might even be about the things that I just mentioned, but it also might be about something else that keeps repeating for you. Notice when something in your life repeats. Notice the things that make you want to feel rebellious. Notice how you want to be different from what is being shown to you, and see where you feel limited in that aspect, because there is a message there for you. Now, we also have a few more messages from Spirit from the Lumen Oracle. Love this deck. This is the Explorer. And this is about literally exploring the mind's eye, the heart, the whole body, and having the whole experience. So this isn't just about exploring even the body. I think this also is about exploring the land around you, taking a trip, traveling, because this is the message. This is everything Spirit wants you to know right now. Spirit is telling you to explore. If you can't book a trip or a vacation right now, explore the town around you. Look up what is historical in your town and visit those places. Visit a landmark. Go to a local museum. Go to a local art show. Go to a local farmer's market. Even if you don't spend money, there are free things everywhere that you can partake in. If you're in a small town, look at the nature that surrounds that small town and go explore. Look for the plants that are native to that area and get in touch with them. There are so many ways to explore the land without taking like a big bougie ass vacation. Don't get me wrong, I'm a Taurus. I will always advocate for you to take that luxurious vacation if you're able, but if you're not, that's okay too. You can still be an explorer without having to spend a crap load of money. And I don't know why I'm like feeling some of y'all's energy that's like, I can't explore. I don't have time or money. Literally, you can spend 30 minutes right outside your neighborhood. And I promise there will be something interesting. Just get in the car, get on your bike, take your Chevrolet legs if that's what you got. Like, there's definitely something that needs to be explored either within you or without you. Not without you, but like outside of you. We also have for you sacred sexuality. Ooh. Now, Spirit is saying that some of you do harbor a little bit of sexual shame, especially if you were the person that I said an ex is maybe making you feel like you can't be yourself, especially if you were ever like sexually entangled with them. But sacred sexuality, this card is so potent and beautiful because it is about reclaiming your own sexual energy, because sexuality is subjective to a person. So I'm going to read this card to you from the book because I feel like the book says it the best. Where is it? Sacred sexuality. Page 66. Ooh, angel number. Page 66, Sacred Sexuality. It says, our sexual self and sexual energy is such a layered and potent part of who we are. That's funny that I would use the word potent, and here we are. It can show us our wounds. It can provide healing. It can help us manifest. It can teach us boundaries and can fuel and empower us. Sacred sexuality does not mean that your sexual presence or expression needs to look a certain way. It simply means that your sexuality is sacred as it is. It is a core part of your humanity as well as your spiritual and universal self. This card asks you to examine your relationship to your sexual self. Is there anything that needs tending to? Is there anything that needs healing or releasing? So listen. So if you want to post the thirst trap, post the thirst trap. Like, it doesn't matter if your Aunt Marjorie is going to see it. Oh my goodness. Delete her, block her, blocked and reported. Okay. Your sexuality is yours to own, and it is time for us to do away with this idea that the feminine body is something to be disgraced and put down, or the male body, the masculine body, or any body, however you identify, maybe or not. Yeah, no, however you identify. There is nothing to be ashamed of. I apologize. I didn't mean to put femininity in there if that's not how you identify. I think it's because I identify that way that sometimes I get a little caught up. But like, don't feel like you need to hide that if you don't want to. Now, if you do, that's totally for you. That's for you to decide what you want to do with that. But my point is that there is nothing wrong with being a sexual being. It is a primal human instinct. And this card, I feel like, is asking you to explore that, explore your body, explore where there might be sexual shame, and see where that leads you. And then we also have self-love. So this is about giving love and compassion back to yourself, loving yourself enough to create safe spaces for you to be that inner rebel that you are, that you came here to be. Now, we also have for you the card Rapture, which says sensuality, love, devotion, romance, ecstasy, and pleasure. So you're also literally being told by Spirit that you need to get back in touch with your own sensuality. There is nothing like, obviously, if you're somebody that is just like not your vibe, maybe you identify as ace, and obviously that is a spectrum. I never want to come on here and speak for anybody's sexuality. That is for you. But those of you that feel like you are very disconnected from your body and your pleasure senses when you want to be connected, this is really a call to explore your body, explore yourself, explore your sexuality. And don't be afraid to be who you are. Now, obviously do this in a safe way if you are not in a living situation where you are able to be your loudest, proudest self. I'm never going to tell you to rush yourself out of the closet. Do things in a safe manner, gently at your own pace. But Spirit is reminding you to reclaim the energy for yourself. And do it in any way that you possibly can, because there is something within you right now that is maybe being a little bit more suppressed that needs to be expressed, and finding ways to do that for yourself. If you are in a position where you are able to be out loud, proud, do that. Don't hesitate. Allow yourself to explore that avenue of yourself. Because I really feel like it might feel like an act of rebellion to you because you were taught that something about it was wrong, and there is nothing wrong. Like, if you thought for a second coming onto my channel we were not LGBTQIA plus like allyship, I am a bisexual queen myself. Like, I am not straight. I might be married to a man, but that's just because he got to me first before I realized. I am a bisexual queen, and if you ever thought that this space was a not supportive of that, or you are somebody who is not in support of that, you are in the wrong space. Because that is something I absolutely will always stand up for, will always continue to not only have allyship, but I'm a part of it. So, like, if this is being suppressed for you, obviously this isn't going to be everybody. Some of y'all are straight AF and you're like, what is Kloee going on about? But for some of you, this is something that's coming up really majorly for you, especially because we have Pride Month going on right now. And obviously Pride Month is every month, let's be honest. But right now the spotlight is on Pride Month. But for you, this is just an open invitation from Spirit to remind you to tap in. Then we also have Morning Dew, clarity, a fresh start, a positive outlook. So I feel like as you kind of cleanse yourself from maybe toxic thought patterns, toxic people, things that do not need to be in your realm, because I really get the sense that you are doing some deep integrative healing. You know what people don't talk about? I've actually seen a few TikToks on this lately, and I think it's fantastic. When you start to heal your inner child, you know who comes out next? The inner teenager comes out next. And they are pissed. Like, let me tell you, especially if you were not allowed to express yourself in any way, shape, or form, they are pissed and they really need some gentle love. So as you make more space for yourself, you are able to create this fresh start for yourself. You're able to turn over a new leaf. You're able to do more healing work. There might be something around your sexuality that needs healing, and it's okay to open up and allow yourself to do that in a safe way. The reason I keep really emphasizing the safety is because I always want my channel to be a very safe space. And there is a very real reality that some of you face living situations where you're not able to be out and open right now. And I want you to know that you always have a home in my channel. You always have a home here, and you can always be yourself here. Even if it's just like you bringing your energy into the channel. Like, I always want you to know that this is home. If home doesn't feel like home, this is home. And to me, it is the least we can do as humanity, is to be more loving, open, and accepting. So that's why I'm really reminding you that go at your own pace. Don't do something that's going to put yourself in danger if you're in that kind of situation. Everybody's situation is different. Everybody's going through something different right now. And the last three cards I have for you are from Spirit directly. These to me are just very gentle, loving messages about what is to come for you, or the energy that you're calling in. We have Compassionate Ascent. When the heart breaks open to make space for suffering of another, the universe expands. Ascension is not a solitary journey. Together we rise. We have Patience and Persistence. Have patience while the path clears. Expansion can cause old energy to be released. Let it go. Stay focused on your goal. Ethereal Entanglement. Do not fear the fragile things or the what does that say? or the ephemeral magic of life. I don't know that I've ever seen that word except for maybe right here. Just relax your grip on rationale and see through wonder's eye. What is loved is never lost, though evidence may fade from view. Once found, love stays for all your days, for love forever changes you. And there's like a dragon back here that it looked like. Do you see that? This card is interesting. I don't know that if I've seen this one, it's been a while and I just don't remember it. It's just, I feel like I just want to focus on the imagery for a minute. Like we've got like this crystal ball. Looks like there's a dragon back here protecting. Do not fear the fragile things. Don't fear your fragileness. Don't fear being fragile. You don't have, like, I feel like the rebel also, sometimes with the wounded rebel, we become the rebel without a cause, a rebel for being a rebel's sake, for causing trouble for no reason, or going through like putting yourself in situations for no reason. And I feel like this is also Spirit reminding you that it's okay to come undone. It's okay to be fragile. It's okay to be open to what is on the inside. And know that from that, as you work to heal, to work through, to be your most loud, proud self, you are going to be open to so much more greatness in your life, so much more peace, protection. Well, I feel like you're always protected. I literally, as I started to say that, Spirit was like, no, they're protected. Peace, protection. You're going to be open to, like, isn't it crazy? Spirit is just wanting me to remind you this, that you haven't even met every person that will love you in this lifetime yet. Isn't that crazy to think about? I feel like there's so much more to the situation that you're currently in. I get the sense that there's a little bit of heaviness here, pile number 3, if I'm being totally honest. And Spirit is reminding you that there is a way through. You're not rebellious without a reason. And even if sometimes it feels that way, it's because there is an underlying something that is wanting to be acknowledged. And as you create this healing space for yourself, you make peace your priority. You take control of your space, your online space. You make moves to maybe even change your living situation if you're one of those people that's in a situation that isn't supportive. As you shift any limiting beliefs you might even have, it's going to change you in such a big way that I feel like even with that word rapture, I know a lot of us might have some feelings about that word. If we had religious oppression or religious abuse even, we can have a lot of feelings about that word rapture. But ultimately, I think it's also a reminder that, gosh, it makes me want to, y'all got a lot from the book today. I feel like in the book, she talks about like the meaning behind rapture. Let's see. I'm just going to read it for you. Flora is the ancient Roman goddess of spring and flowers. In one myth, she was struck by Cupid's arrow and overwhelmed by the love and completely breathless in the moment of rapture. She called for Eros. However, the sound Rose comes out of her mouth instead. So rose became another word for Eros, and it also became the symbol for love, beauty, and passion. Read another version of the story about Flora naming the rose on page 18. Many patriarchal religions have placed a shameful cloak around sexuality, sex, pleasure, ecstasy, rapture, and sexuality. One of the most natural, pleasurable parts of life has become conditioned and judged. The rose wants us to heal from this and to remember that pleasure, sensuality, sexual preference, an expression of desire can be some of the most sacred, miraculous things about being human. This card comes with a message about receiving and giving love and pleasure. Flora wants you to know that your sensuality, your passion, and your sexuality, no matter how you identify, are sacred and holy. She wants you to connect with your sensual true nature and to celebrate this in all people. So I feel like even the word rapture, it doesn't have to be like the great rapture is coming. Like, rapture is also about ecstasy. And I could make so many videos talking about patriarchal society and how Christianity really demonizes anything fun in this human existence. I'm not trying to come for you if you're Christian. Like, I believe that everybody is able to access or I would like everybody to access and feel welcome to hear the content that I produce here. That's important to me. But I do feel like there is a lot to be unpacked there, that even the word rapture doesn't even necessarily pertain what we think it does in a religious context. It actually means ecstasy and pleasure, and it's way more related to sex. So it's about reframing and changing. But in any case, pile number 3, thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you so much for hearing me, for hearing what Spirit wants you to know at this time, to reconnect with your sacred sexuality, to work towards healing, to work towards your purpose, and to protect your space. And please, please, please do not forget to check out the Patreon if you would like to support the content that I make here. Y'all literally make all of my content possible, so thank you so much if you're already a patron. If you would like to book a reading with me, please know that I will never, ever, ever solicit you for a reading. You can only book on my website. I will never contact you directly and tell you to book with me or give me money. Those are all scammers. It's happening to so many readers. You can only book through my website, KhloeTaylor.com. I do accept tips for my readings if you would like to tip me. It is never an expectation, but I do have my Cashapp, my Venmo, my PayPal listed down below. I also have my wish list down there if you'd like to check it out for those of you that have asked for it. And we also do have a podcast if you were unaware. It is called Divine Authenticity. New episodes come out every single Tuesday. It's very candid, probably my most like real raw version of myself that goes to the internet, because it's very unscripted and we talk about all kinds of things: trauma healing, childhood wounding, magic, mysticism, witchcraft, like anything that sets my mind abuzz, we're talking about over there. So definitely come and check out the podcast. Links down below. It's available everywhere you listen to podcasts. I have my socials: Instagram, TikTok, Twitter. I'm at Kloee Taylor, and I have the official handle. Like, I have KLOEETAYLOR. Anybody else is a scammer. And last but certainly not least, please do not forget, pile number 3, that when you stand in your own authenticity, you empower everyone around you to do the same. I love you so much, pumpkin, and I'll talk to you next time.